Greetings, travelers. I'm Chris. Welcome to Lorespire. Today we're going to be going over the Q2 update for the Wayward Realms that was released today by Once Lost Games. And I have the Once Lost Games technical producer here with me, Kyle, to kind of help explain everything. How you doing, Kyle?
I'm doing good. Thanks for asking, and it's a pleasure to be here.
Awesome. Can you explain just kind of what you do for Once Lost Games and maybe just a little bit about your background?
Yeah. So what I do for Once Lost Games is a bit of a mixed bag. I know you've talked to Victor before, so you're probably familiar with a lot of what he does. I'm sort of the same, except I do the technical side. So I'm I'm in charge of basically coordinating all of our actual implementation, as far as like getting the code written, making sure that the design is actually implementable, that kind of thing, as well as a lot of the behind the scenes business work. As far as a background goes, a lot of people will probably be surprised to hear that this is actually my first ever job, proper job, I should say, in the games industry. I did a couple of contracts before that, but I actually come mostly from a customer service background.
Oh, interesting. How did you make the jump from customer service to this?
I like to joke that I tripped and fell.
All right.
So I have always wanted to be in the games industry, period. But I wasn't quite sure how I wanted to. And the 5-second version of the story is I was going to go to school for game design, managed to meet somebody who was willing to teach me everything for free. That somebody ended up working on the Wayward Realms project, and he invited me to essentially join the team. So that's like I said, the 5-second version of that story.
Oh, that's pretty interesting. Maybe we can get the longer version of that at some point in the future, not right now. But I feel like that could be a pretty interesting story. That's certainly not a common occurrence, I would think.
Yeah, definitely not.
All right. Well, that's cool. Can you tell us maybe some about like your favorite games, like maybe what you're playing now, what's kind of influenced you, what you like, and maybe what's influencing your work on the Wayward Realms?
Yeah. So actually, I am a major fan of just about anything with a well-written story. Like, I'm one of those gamers where I'll forgive, some lackluster graphics or some subpar gameplay as long as the story is engaging and the world building is deep. It's a bit of a cliche answer for someone working on a project like this, but let me make it a little less cliche. I actually am a big JRPG fan.
Me too. Sorry, go ahead.
No, you're good. Like, just to name a couple of my favorites, though, Legend of Dragoon,
Oh,
underrated hit.
dude, yes.
Underrated
so
hit.
Amazing.
All right.
Absolutely.
You and I are going to have to go on a nerd rant about Legend of Dragoon after this.
I could definitely do that. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, like Dragon Quest, Final Fantasy. I need to get into the Persona series, but yeah, like, honestly, for a game like this, you asked how it influences. World building is the core of what we're doing as far as like the game itself, other than developing the systems, of course. But we've always said that we're developing a world that people are going to sort of live in, not just a story for them to experience. So I always appreciated that aspect of it.
For sure. Yeah, I agree. If the story is good enough and the lore and the world building, like everything else just kind of needs to be functional. And yeah, if it's good enough. Anyways, that's cool. So yeah, another thing I wanted to ask you: can you tell us about what character you're most looking forward to playing in the Wayward Realms? What's that going to be? Do you have like a backstory? Do you have a build? Do you have anything like that in mind for what you're really excited to play?
That's a very hard question to give a specific answer to, but I will say that I'm kind of looking forward to trying to kind of play a puppeteer of sorts. Because
Okay.
we've talked a lot about in the project the ability to sort of control your own reputation with factions. the ability to actually like maybe hide who you were when you take certain actions and influence certain behaviors. So I kind of like the idea of just this wanderer who's maybe not well known, but has his fingers in sort of every little pie. I feel like that would be such a cool, interesting way for me to change it up, because normally I just go for the typical hack and slash.
No, that definitely sounds interesting. Have y'all implemented any of the systems that might facilitate, that type of character build at this point, or is that kind of being put off for maybe like final release kind of stuff?
So I know we've talked a lot about like our reputation systems and things like that. So I would say that some early work on that might be coming, but I can't say how much of it will be in the early access. It's a bit too soon to say for sure.
Okay, all right, fair enough. Um, okay, so yeah, the Q2 update for the Wayward Realms that just released today, and we're basically just going to go down the list of everything that was in it, and I'm just going to ask Kyle here about it from here on. I might skip a couple of things here and there that are just like super obvious, but if you're like me, you don't necessarily understand in depth what most of it means. So hopefully everybody will learn something from this here. We're going to start with the game design and UI sections, which are kind of the two shortest sections. So I'm combining them here. But yeah, with the game design, kind of the first thing that you put up there in all caps is, we have a core game now. What exactly does that mean? Does that mean that you have a game that right now you could open up on your PC and create a character and play through at least some small part of it that's ready? Or what does that mean, we have a core game now?
Yeah, I was actually laughing when I saw how they phrased that. So it's a bit of creative speech, I would say, to kind of say that our core game design has finally been solidified. So the early years of the project were heavily spent kind of just throwing everything at the wall to see what would stick, see what felt right, what sounded cool, what was possible, that kind of thing. But especially over the course of the last year, we have really sat down, taken the time, gone over everything, expanded what needed to be expanded upon, solidified what needed to be solidified, and cut what needed to be cut. So we have what we really feel is a solid core game experience. What we really can't wait for our own ability to play through, but your guys' as well. Things like the VGM, combat, questing, those kinds of things are much more clearly defined than they were before, and we are very excited about that.
Okay, so basically you've just identified what all the core game systems are definitely going to be, and you've got them all like well defined and thought out, but not necessarily implemented and playable yet.
Working on it. We'll definitely be going.
No.
Yeah, we'll be going over that a bit more in the programming section.
Okay, all right, yeah.
But yeah, so there is a level of ability to go in and play it, but we're getting to that level.
Okay, all right, fair enough. And in the UX UI, you talk about working on both keyboard and gamepad navigation and menus, which I knew that y'all wanted to hopefully be able to bring the game to consoles, but I didn't realize that that y'all were working on like a gamepad user interface ability, I guess, for like early access already. Obviously, that wouldn't be for consoles; that would still be with PC. But I was just curious, like, is that in preparation for hopefully getting it ready for a console port, or does that like getting a gamepad set up for PC not even really relate to that?
So yes, it is in preparation for porting to on some level, I should say, but it's mostly just from the start we have wanted to support as many modes of gameplay as possible. I myself am a controller gamer. I like my gamepads. So from the start, I have always wanted to make sure, and we have always wanted to make sure that we support that kind of thing. As for whether or not it will, it will, what's the word I'm looking for here? Make porting easier. Yes and no. It is one aspect of porting that we would then not have to worry about, but there is so much that goes into it. It's still it's a commitment we are still keeping to. We do definitely want to bring the game to consoles, but I don't want to oversell how much a gamepad support is going to support that.
So it might make some small difference, but only very small difference.
More or less, yeah.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. Sounds good. Yeah, like I said, this 2 sections pretty short, so we're gonna move on to the programming section now, which is the section that I understand the least. And so we're gonna just hit like absolutely everything here, and it's probably gonna be a whole lot of me just saying, okay, what does that mean? Please explain. So yeah, the first thing that we have up here in the programming section is y'all have upgraded to Unreal Engine 5.5. Which I actually do understand what that means, but this going to be like the last iteration of Unreal Engine that y'all use? Like, is that the plan, or might y'all still upgrade further if they come out with the 5.6 or 7 or?
Well, I can tell you they're most definitely going to be coming out with future versions, but that's more of an epic conversation. I will say though that to answer your question, it's a yes with an asterisk. Yes, we are sticking with 5.5 unless they come out with a very we absolutely have to have it feature in a future version of Unreal. It really comes down to a number of different things, mostly just wanting to make sure that there is a lot of breakage. You break things when you update your engine, because certain things that were built a certain way in a previous version are no longer built that way. It takes a lot of time, resources, and effort to change the engine version, even if it's as simple as going from 5.4 to 5.5. So the odds of us changing again are slim.
Okay, well, what was it about 5.5 then that what was that gotta have it feature that made you change from 5.4 to 5.5?
We actually, I think, made us a more significant leap than even that. We jumped, I want to say, from 5.1 to 5.5, and it was mostly the PCG systems, the procedural content generation tools that Epic introduced into Unreal that really sort of enabled us to get our environments working a lot better and looking a lot better. And honestly, there was a lot of back-end improvements as well with things just mostly visually. Unreal 5.5 is even over 5.1 a major visual improvement.
Nice. Yeah, the proc gen, that's such a big part of the game that, if there was a big upgrade for that, I guess that makes sense. Also nicer to have things look better, so cool. Let's see, next up we have you have a working prototype of the VGM writer quest parser, which I think means the part of the VGM that writes and hands out the quests, maybe? Probably not. Anyways, you have that with an early action block interactions, llama plugin, backend, fully rewritten. What does that mean, like in layman's term? Because the VGM, one of the most exciting features. I want to know what this actually means. Hopefully, some others do too.
Yeah, no, you were close. I'll say that. So in sort of layman's terms, what it means is that our VGM is working with a very basic AI in order to take in quest information from our writers. So they write up basically a story. The VGM then takes that story, breaks it up into its little parts, which is our action blocks, and then recombines it in a way that the systems will understand as a quest. So for example, let's take a basic, sort of go out, kill a goblin quest, right?
Yeah.
Our VGM, so it starts with a writer. Our writer says, you know, like they write up a whole like maybe 2-paragraph story about how this NPC really is just having so much trouble with these goblins in this part, and they really just need someone to go out and kill, you know, some goblins. And if they do, they'd be more than happy to reward them with, you know, some gold or what have you, right? The VGM then takes in that, you know, 2-paragraph sort of story, and it says, okay, this NPC needs you to go to this place, kill this many goblins, and, you know, return for your reward. And so it breaks it down into sort of the quest steps that we're familiar with, and then feeds it back into the system so that way our writers don't have to necessarily how do you they don't necessarily have to like write a quest.
Write the quest. Yeah,
Yeah.
they just write a story and the VGM turns it into a quest, which actually sounds really, really like that's really great. How many legs would a quest like that be? Would that be just like you run into the person, they ask you to go kill the goblins, you just go there, kill them, and like come right back? So it's just like one quest. Like,
So in that particular example, that'd probably be a one and done kind of thing. But even our one and done kind of quests, we're hoping to have sort of a 5-act structure where it's a little bit more involved than that. So that way we're not just rushing down the same tired old, you know, oh, this is a fetch quest, or oh, this is a kill quest, or
it does get boring, yeah.
exactly. So we're hoping to make them a little bit more interesting than that by using the 5-act structure. But in that particular example, it's a bad one for longevity. But say, for example, the VGM sees that, you know, the goblins were also pestering this, you know, other farmer, then maybe you could get a quest from that person who's like, well, they're also pestering this. Or actually, more likely, maybe the goblins were, and again, this is just super basic off the top of my head stuff.
Yeah,
Maybe the goblins were pestering the farmer because of, you know, a bigger monster was in the way, and now that bigger monster has come in, and suddenly that small kill quest is, you know, has triggered a bigger one where now you have to deal with this bigger monster. So there's definitely room for the quests to kind of grow beyond the simple one-legged thing, and it all depends on how things look in the world.
Okay. One more question about that. Like, is the VGM taking that and taking that story and making a quest out of it and assigning that to an NPC, and then you just miss that if you never talk to that NPC? Or is it taking that, turning it into a quest, and then whenever you talk to an NPC, then it assigns it to them so that you're like sure to get it?
It could be a mix of both. So it does depend largely on the details of the quest. So certain things might be specific. We'll talk a bit more in like the writing section about like the faction quest lines.
All right, yeah, I keep getting ahead of myself here.
No, you're good. You're good. But it does largely depend. Some of the more sort of in the moment kind of things might just happen regardless of NPC interactions. Some, like, you might kill the goblins and trigger a quest, or you might, like, it's not necessarily going to be that linear. I just use that as an example.
Okay. All right. Got it. All right. So next we have working dynamic multi POI point of interest
Yes.
pathing and individual NPC scheduling with a near field swap. All right. So yeah, we got to see some of the near field, far field stuff in the last interview that we did. So maybe this is interesting here. How much is this talking about the progress y'all have made on that?
Yeah, so basically it's just some major improvements to the near field, far field stuff. Basically, the NPCs are now able to have unique and dynamic pathing as far as if we want them to go to the tavern and then go to their place of work and then go home. That's a thing. That's very simple. But if something happens in between the tavern and the work, then they it can add a new essentially point of interest, and it will affect their schedule in real time, even when they're sort of essentially no matter which version of the system they're on, near field or far field. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. So you mean like if they happen to come across the path of, I don't know, a goblin or a bandit or something, and that they have to fight it, and that throws off their schedule, like, yeah.
So
I feel like I'm not really getting it, but
no, it's a fairly You're basically there. So the idea is that NPCs will have they're not all following one hive mind. So what essentially means is that an NPC we'll have 10 NPCs who are going from home to work to tavern back home, right?
Okay.
And if one NPC says, well, instead of going home, I'd rather go to the market, that doesn't mean that all 10 NPCs are going to the market. And so in your example, if they run into a goblin, that'll also throw off the schedule. And so it doesn't throw off the schedule for all 10 NPCs. They have that level of unique and individuality to them.
Okay, all right, I get that. That's definitely awesome. What would make them decide to go to the market though, instead of like what determines that?
So at this point in time, it's mostly just sort of us telling them to go. But the idea would be that in time, the behaviors will be determined by who they are, by what they're, who they are in society. Is it because they're a stay-at-home mother, or are they a blacksmith in need of more resources, or what have you? It will be a system informed by a lot of other details that can make general adjustments to the schedule. So, if maybe on Wednesdays, all of the blacksmiths gather at the pub in the local town just to kind of have a pint, but maybe go ahead.
I was just gonna say, okay, I think I'm understanding. So, like the basic bottom layer, first layer, or whatever, is like controlling all 10 or however many of these NPCs to have them do the same thing, and then as you institute like the other layers that like I guess add more depth or definement to those NPCs, then they will start to break off and do their own things based on those details.
Exactly. Yeah. So, and it really can get eventually quite sort of specific, where eventually each individual NPC, especially as you interact with them more and they become more of a real person, quote unquote, they will gain personality traits. They'll gain things that a background NPC typically wouldn't have, that could also affect their schedule. So, for example, going back to that first group of people where it's like, they're just going home, work, tavern, home. You interact with that with one of those 10, and suddenly that person has a backstory that matters, and work is shut down because of whatever quest they need you to go on. So suddenly their schedule is completely thrown off, and the more you interact with them, the say you fix that, their schedule's fixed. But now the VGM has decided, oh, you liked talking to that NPC. Maybe I'll have them travel to another town for some reason. And they are using a blacksmith example. Maybe they're going for like an apprenticeship or something. And so now they're in a new town and they have a new schedule, and it allows a lot of dynamic.
Yeah, no, that sounds really great. And that could be any of the NPCs then, because you're not creating an NPC to be that specifically. You're just letting the VGM see who we're interacting with, and then assigning them a backstory or traits or whatever, based on how we're interacting with them, or what quest we do for them. And then maybe the VGM decides to keep things interesting, like send them to another town and we meet them there and something else happens. Yeah, I can't wait to see that in action. Like, I
You and
don't
me
know.
both.
It's almost mind blowing. Like
There's a lot of stuff that has to go into it before it's quite at that level, but that is the vision. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Awesome. So next up, far-field large item support with dynamic interaction and awakening support. Feel like that just means like NPCs are doing stuff off screen or like way away from the player, even whenever the player's not there. But I don't know. What does that actually mean?
So yes and no. Yes, the NPCs are still doing things way off screen, even when the player's not looking at them. That is a part of it. But what this is specifically talking to is actual like entities, and the entities are defined as like, I think the best example we have currently is like an apple. So an apple, when you're near it, is going to be, a full item. It's something that you can interact with, pick it up, you can, eat it, whatever you need to do with it. But when you're not interacting with it, it doesn't need to be real. It doesn't need to be something that is taking up, computing power or what have you. And so our system is designed in such a way that the items exist in the far field system until you interact with them. Then they quote unquote wake up, where they become real and they have physics. They can be moved. And then as soon as the interaction stops, as soon as they cease moving, or like the example we have right now is a bunch of apples that are just sort of like sitting there, and then we throw a fireball at it, and all of the apples wake up and roll around in response to the fireball. When they stop moving, they go back to being essentially fake objects. I'm just to keep it simple.
Yeah. Okay. So how many items are going to be like that? Because I don't know. I thought I'd remembered it being said that like most items in the world wouldn't be interactable. Like it wouldn't be like Oblivion or Skyrim where you can like literally pick up every little thing and move it around. Like, has that changed or?
I wouldn't say that's changed. I know that we definitely have a limit on how far we want to go with that. I just don't know if I have a solid, specific answer to give you on that, because obviously things like apples are an easy example, because those are items that have a use. They're something that you can pick up, you can eat, you can do what you need to do with them. But not everything is going to
Like bowls or plates on a table, like maybe not.
They might
Yeah,
not. It
hard to
really
know.
hasn't. Yeah, like
Yeah,
it really
okay.
just depends on if we can find a valid use case for it. I don't know if we necessarily want to have just cluttered junk all over the place, but we'll see.
Okay. All right. Got it. See, next we have early room sampling and dungeon room metadata systems. Yeah, I don't know what that is.
Okay, so this one is actually fairly simple. What it means is that we have a level designer or an artist go in and they design a room. So, for example, let's just say a bedroom, right?
Sure.
So, a typical bedroom, you're going to have a bed, you'll have maybe a dresser, nothing too crazy, right? But the room sampling means that we have a system that looks at where you placed everything in this room. And you basically say, hey, this is a bedroom. And the system goes, okay, so this is what a bedroom looks like. Got it. And then when we go through and build out a dungeon, it asks, what type of rooms do I need to make this dungeon? And then it says, let's say, for example, we're doing an old castle is a dungeon, just for the sake of the example here. Castles have rooms. Castles have bedrooms. Simple. So it will remember that bedroom that we made and say, okay, I need a bed, I need a dresser. This is roughly how they were placed. And it will put the appropriate bed and dresser in the bedroom. So when you walk in as a player, this is a bedroom. And so generally speaking, what this means is that we do not have to spend hours and hours and hours of dev time going through and painstakingly creating every room in every dungeon from scratch. We simply have to kind of explain what a room looks like. The system goes, okay, good to know, and uses that information when it procedurally builds out the dungeon. There's probably still going to be at least one human passover just to make sure that it looks correct.
Yeah.
But at its core, the idea is that the procedural system should know what a bedroom looks like, or a kitchen, or a guard room, or what have you. And it should put the appropriate items out there, at least in a basic sense.
Okay, so it just means that at this point you have taught the ProcGen system how to, make rooms.
Yeah, basically.
Okay.
Specific rooms, I should say.
Specific rooms? You haven't finished all of them yet?
Well, more like to be specific, it's not just we know how to make rooms, because rooms are easy. You can just put 4 walls and a.
Well, yeah,
roof.
okay, yeah, like bedroom versus
Yeah.
kitchen versus
Yeah.
Okay, got it. Okay, next we have dialogue injection system, UI context box, and passive display support. Again, I'm kind of like, huh?
Yeah. So this one, it goes back to what I was saying about the AI and the NPCs. So you remember how we basically said that, NPCs will grow as you interact with them, right?
Yeah.
Dialogue injection essentially means taking dialogue that was not originally written for that NPC, because I do want to be clear, we are going to have handwritten, very specifically designed NPCs, but there's just going to be too many of them for us to do that for every single one. The VGM is going to essentially take dialogue that was not initially written for these NPCs and inject it into their essentially their dialogue options dynamically. So the best example would be, say we go back to that goblin quest, right? The NPC may not have initially been written to have goblins even on the mind, but the VGM says, well, we have goblins, they're in the area, we want to keep the player entertained, let's go ahead and put goblins in the NPC's brain, so that way they understand how to, like, they can have a conversation about it. And does that make sense? Am I making it make a little bit more sense?
I think so. So this is basically just the system by which the VGM adds a quest or certain dialogue to a particular NPC. Something that they may not have started off with.
Exactly, yeah. Because as it is right now, a lot of our NPCs have specific dialogue written for them. A lot of the ones that are handwritten. We know what we want them to say. We know how we want them to kind of interact. But as a player interacts, that dialogue may need to change, or they may need new dialogue, and we can't necessarily plan for every single scenario. So the VGM will have essentially the knowledge of how to interject this information into the NPC, and we'll have we hope to have it for the early access. It's not currently ready to go yet, but there's another system called dialogue curling, which will essentially take the NPC's personality and their backstory and so on and so forth, and make the dialogue sound unique to that NPC. So that way, even if you have 10 different NPCs who say, I have a goblin problem, they might say it a little differently.
Yeah. Like, instead of I have a goblin problem, those damn goblins burnt my pasture.
Exactly, yeah. As for UI context box and passive display support, that is a answer to, let's be honest, the fact that we don't have any current plans for voice acting or VA or. So obviously with text only interaction, you do miss a lot of that sort of nuance that a voice can give you.
Yeah.
So those are, essentially our ways of giving those nuance, the, sort of like they look at you warily, or, that kind of thing.
Okay. All right. So it's not what they're saying, but yeah, it's maybe just giving you like their, like, body or emotional cues or something like that.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Gotcha. Next, we have 4 enemy type near field AI combat behaviors, early fish, and void work. So yeah, near field AI combat behaviors for enemy. Like I feel like that means like you can be fighting up to 4 enemies at once, and they will respond to each other. Maybe change their tactics or something, based on what the others are doing while you're fighting them. Is that close? Did I get it right?
You're partially right. So yes, they will fight each other, but it mostly just means that we have 4 currently working AI combatants. So we have 4 enemy types that are actively ready for us to kind of get into a fight with, and maybe they fight each other. But that is, in simplest terms, that is what that means.
All right. Can you share what any of those are?
I mean, we've shown off the skeleton already.
Yeah.
I know we have the Orc Knight. I'm not sure if we've shared the other 2.
Orc
But
Knight or Death Knight?
Orc Knight.
Orc Knight. Okay. All right.
So fighting against an orc. I don't think there are any plans currently to make the Death Knight a actively fightable enemy, but we'll see. Let's see what else.
You mean for early access, right?
For early access.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. Thank you for calling me on that. For early access. And then what? I know we had, yeah. So we do have 2 more. I'm not sure if we've talked about it before, but I will go ahead and give this exclusive even more exclusivity if we haven't. Standard, just human knights and Calibans.
Calibans. Okay. All right. Yeah. Those should be. I don't know. I would have thought that those might have been one of the last things. Why Caliban so soon?
I think particular reason. I mean, other than they seem like fun to work on.
They do, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I can't speak to, like, a lot of this is the work of several very, very intelligent people who kind of make the decisions as well. But ultimately, I think it mostly came down to, because of the unique behavior of Calibans, if we could get them working, it makes getting a lot of other enemy types working easier by response. So
okay, that actually makes sense, because the other ones is kind of like, those did seem kind of like mundane. Like, okay, that makes perfect sense for that to be the first thing, you know. And then Caliban just seems so outside of all that. But yeah, no, that makes sense as a reason for why. It makes sense now. Got it. What is early fish and void work? Is that supposed to be body work? Or
I can understand the confusion.
Yeah, I don't know what void is.
So it's basically, the simplest way that I could put void is that it refers to a system that programmatically mimics flocking behavior.
Okay. All right. So like a school of fish, a flock of birds.
Exactly. Yeah. So we have some early flocking behavior is what that really means without using the technical jargon, as well as just basic fish and bird sort of logic. Nothing too complicated there.
All right. Cool. Sounds good. Next we have let's see, basic combat system refactor. I feel like I know what this one is. You've just changed the math to combat, right? Am I right?
That's part of it. It's
again a partial. Okay.
It's improvements to the system overall. Better animations, better logic, better feel. Basically, just simple improvements. Nothing too crazy there.
Okay. And then music subsystem, TTS, STT improvements. Like you're just, I don't know, making the game sound better, maybe adjusting when and where music is applied, or what?
That's exactly it. Yeah.
All right. I got one. Awesome. Anything else before we leave programming? Because that's like such a big, important section. Is there anything else that you would like to explain about any of that? Maybe I didn't ask about or anything, or did we all cover it all pretty well?
I mean, you covered it pretty well overall. I know that our programming systems have really made some heavy progress. I do want to sort of give a caveat that I may not have explained anything 100% perfectly, just because there are a lot of moving parts, and but I do know that the work is so impressive, and I can't wait to show some more behind the scenes looks at what we're doing.
All right. Well, since you brought it up, when are you going to show that? When are you going to show? When's the next devlog? When do we get to see some of this stuff?
I'm going to give an answer that's going to make a lot of people very they're going to groan out loud. We're working on it.
All right. I mean, it's an honest answer.
Yeah.
It's definitely better than giving us a date and then it doesn't happen. So
and
I can
want
appreciate
to,
it.
Yeah, and I do want to avoid the overpromise and underdeliver sort of like habit that our industry typically has. So I know that I was talking about it with Victor actually yesterday. I think we would like to have something for this summer, but I don't want to promise anything. As I'm sure people will understand and hopefully be happy to hear, the bulk of our focus is on the development itself, which doesn't really leave a lot of time for well, that would make a cool devlog.
No, I totally get it, and yeah, it makes sense. Well, we all want to see more of what's going on, but I think that all of us, or at least the vast majority of us, would agree it's better to have early access ready on time and working well than it is for us to maybe get an extra devlog every now and then. So yeah.
We are working on it. I like we do, like we're constantly talking about like what we want to show you guys and when and how, but it really just depends on a lot of things.
Okay. All right. Well, that brings us into marketing, which is maybe kind of leads into that pretty well. The first part up in marketing is continued branding evolution. Which I think we all kind of know what that means. But I was wondering if you could give us some examples.
Yeah, I mean,
of how it's evolved.
Yeah, of course. So a lot of it isn't public yet. We've actually been doing a lot of things on the back end with, kind of establishing how we look and how we present ourselves and how we want you guys as our community to sort of feel and think when you see our logo or the game's logo. And so there are definitely things in the pipeline for that. I'm going to give you sort of a teaser that we are looking to add a bunch of stuff to the merch store very soon that will have a lot of this work kind of on display and showcased. I will say, like, our updated branding and our overall visual sort of renaissance is something that I want to really highlight. So if we do come out with a devlog soon, that will be a heavy focus, I think.
Okay. All right. Since you just mentioned that, just real quick, Wayward Realms, visuals. They're going to be more realistic, more stylized.
I think that the term that gets thrown around a lot is stylized realism, or what is it?
I knew you were going to say that.
What is it? So
that's it.
I'll say this. We did recently have, like I said, a bit of a renaissance.
Yeah.
We are going, I think this is something of a, I don't know if we've talked about this publicly yet, but the overall sort of vibe we're going for, think 80s.
80s. Okay. All right. I mean, yeah. I love the 80s. You're talking like, I don't know, you're talking like Conan and Masters of the Universe and Indiana Jones and all that.
Sort of
come on, what other movies? What?
Yeah,
I probably
yeah.
didn't hit any of the ones that.
I know there's you hit a couple of the big ones, but I know that there's been a lot of what's the word? So obviously we're were influenced by, Daggerfall, which Daggerfall had sort of like an old school, even for then, feel, where a lot of the things that they wanted to do, they didn't have the technology to pull off. And so now we're like, well, we have the technology. So I think you hit it where it's like sort of that bombastic, flashy sort of, you know, we'll obviously keep the camp down as much as we possibly can.
All right.
But yeah,
Okay.
you're on the right track.
Yeah. All right. All right. That's enough of a teaser to get me excited for it. I'm looking forward to seeing what those new updated visuals look like then. Anyways, yeah, and we were talking about the merch store there as well. How's the merch store done so far? If you're expanding on it, I guess it must be doing pretty well. You know, and you just said your plans are to very soon have a bunch of new merchandise, and this, some of it having this new kind of stylized 80s visuals stuff going on.
Yeah, so the first sort of round allowed us to kind of really explore what it was like to start and operate an online store like that. And it was a really good learning experience. Admittedly, it hasn't necessarily contributed to the team all that much in terms of, just like, it's not a breakthrough, oh, we're competing with some of the bigger online stores, but it's done a respectable sort of job so far. And we definitely want to take that new direction we're going on with our art and really sort of put out that new line. And we really do think that it will resonate with, with you and with our fans, and really sort of be something that they're more inclined to like, more a fan of. Not to say that they weren't a fan of the stuff before, but we think we've learned from what they did. And yeah, we absolutely want to expand and add more products and maybe some limited time things when it's right. But I hope that answers the question.
No, it does. It does. So what have you personally purchased from the store so far? Like, what were you just like, oh, that was too awesome and you got it?
I personally haven't bought anything yet because I, like everyone else, am waiting on those game mats.
I was gonna ask about those. Yeah, every single time I see anything about the store in like one of your community posts or something like that, there's always comments underneath it. When are the game mats back? When can we get a game mat? Actually, those game mats are the reasons why, like, the day that y'all announced the tankard, the Wayward Realms tankard, which wasn't that long ago, maybe 3 weeks or a month or whatever now. But I went on there that day and I bought it because I was like, man, that thing, it looks good. Like, it's going to be like the game mat that won't be available in a few days or a week or whatever. So but yeah, I plan on getting one of those game mats as well. Tankard, by the way, that thing, I kind of thought like, I kind of wish they had this in black, but I got it anyways. It looks so clean and just like elegant in the white. My wife saw it, and like as soon as she saw it, she's like, okay, that's mine. And she took it and she made like a display spot on the shelf, and I'm not allowed to drink from it now, and it's just like displayed up there.
So it sounds
good,
like
though.
You need to buy a second one, is what it sounds like.
It does actually. Yeah, I might end up doing that. Although if you have all this great new merchandise that's going to be coming out soon, I might wait a little bit. I also got a hat. By the way, those are really clean. The black hat with the white, the Wayward Realms, looks really good.
Yeah,
and a Death Knight mug.
Yeah, we've been working with our someone on the back end who's been absolutely awesome when it comes to sort of sourcing all of these things. Like the shirt that I am currently wearing, I don't know if you've noticed, has our logo on it. Not available on the store, but we worked with her, and it's the same sort of like supplier that sort of makes some of the stuff we have on the store. So we've got some great stuff there. I'm very happy.
Awesome. Yeah, there's some great stuff there, and I'm definitely looking forward to see what new great stuff is coming up. Definitely looking forward to that. So let's talk about the Wayward Radio podcast. Y'all started that. It seems like that's been a big, huge boon as far as marketing goes. As far as I can tell, it's been incredibly well received. Is there anything you could tell us, give us your thoughts on it, or?
Yeah, I mean, I myself am very happy with it as a occasional guest and as a listener myself. It's been incredible, and I want to say that one of the best parts about it is that it's technically fan run. We host it, we help him do everything, but Joe is the one who came up with the idea. He approached us with it. He's not a official member of the Once Lost teams, but he's been incredible, and it's been a blast sort of recording it. I am ultimately so happy with how it's come out.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, I watch it, and I gotta admit, I'm a little bit jealous of Joe. He's like so smooth, and like with everything that he asks and his voice, and me, like whenever I'm trying to ask, I'm like stuttering and falling over myself. But he's a really great host, and yeah, it's been really good. I look forward to seeing more of that. Is there any thought on how long that's going to last? Like, is it going to go through alpha or release, or maybe even further? Has there been any?
So I'll say the simple answer is it'll last as long as everyone wants it to last.
As long as people are tuning in?
It was originally pitched to us as a podcast that could eventually turn into like, hey, here's our gameplay and what we found and what we thought. And so I know that at the bare minimum, the plan was to support it post full launch of the game. But I expect that as long as people are tuning in, I don't see a reason for it to ever end. Of course, I'm sure Joe will want to probably hang up the mic eventually, but we'll see how what happens to Wayward Radio at that point.
No, that's awesome. That's the answer I wanted to hear. I wanted to hear like post, final release launch, because yeah, it's really great stuff. It's really great stuff. Let's see. Next, CRM initial setup and website rebuild prep work in process. I don't know what CRM is. Website rebuild. Okay, you're rebuilding the website. What's going on with all that?
Yeah, so the CRM is just a fancy acronym for the platform that we use for community management. Victoria, our amazing community manager, kind of just uses it for everything marketing. And so, like, if you were a Kickstarter backer, you've probably received, emails through there. You've probably I think a lot of our social medias run through there. It's sort of like a one-stop shop for sort of marketing. Admittedly, I'm not personally very familiar with it, so there's only so much I could say there. But I will say we do plan to, like you said, we're working on a website refresh. I know you guys have probably been used to the same website for the last however many years, but we're hoping, as part of like what we were talking about earlier with the evolving branding and everything, to sort of give our websites a fresh look. The overhaul hopefully should be coming some point this year as well.
Okay. All right. So whatever we get the overhaul, the rebuild refresh for the website, are y'all going to be adding any more of these dozens of books that are already written to the library of logos? I mean, not all of them, but maybe just a few more, because those books are so great. I would love to be able to read a few more of those stories before help tide me over to early access.
Absolutely. The plan is to expand on the library of logos. So just keep an eye out for that.
Awesome. Definitely looking forward to it. All right. Next up, we have the art sections of the update here. First, we've got finalized all base early access melee weaponry for each culture. Now, I'm assuming that this is like the swords and axes that we've seen in the community posts here recently. Sheehan, Splendorian, Morothi, Ewerdic. Are we going to be seeing like any weapons from any other cultures, maybe like from another race, ogres, or maybe like faction specific weapons like the Lord Masters or Inquisitors? Or are we looking at those four like basic for early access?
Yeah, so your assumption is correct, first and foremost. Those are the ones that we're talking about. However, to answer your question, qualified, yes. So we are working on a bunch of additional weaponry that we are adding to the game. I want to say, to give you something specific, the Inquisitor Glaviet is on the way and ready to go, I want to say. I could be wrong. I'd have to double check. But it is entirely dependent on the team, how quickly they can kind of work on them and how quickly they can kind of get them ready to go. They are hard at work and they're doing some amazing work, but I don't want to overpromise on their behalf.
Okay, well, that sounds like something that maybe even if it's not there at the start of early access, maybe, you know, a few months into early access, whenever it is ready, it could be added.
Absolutely.
Awesome. And one more thing there, real quick, besides just the factions and whatnot, might you know, monsters like, say, well, I guess goblins aren't monsters; they're one of the playable races. But you know, like if you run into let's say like crab people, I don't know if they're going to be in Ijar or not, but like, might they have their own specific weapons that we could maybe loot? Or
I want to say the plan is to have weaponry kind of centered around all of the races and peoples that would make sense. So whether or not they'll be available in the early access, I can't say, but it does come down to sort of our long-term plan, which is we do plan to regularly update the early access all the way to launch. So the idea is that even if it's not necessarily there day one, it could be there by, you know, a week 2 or 3 or month 4, however long. It is one of those things where just because it may not be available day one doesn't mean it's not coming.
okay. All right. Next, we have created base armor set for the final inventory and equipment system. And I wanted to ask if this is referring to like actual armor designs, or is this more of what like armor slots and pieces will be available to be equipped?
So it's a bit of both. So the system for clothing and armor has been fully designed, and implementation is well underway. But it also is more specifically to this point referring to the fact that we do already have at least one armor set fully developed. And so variety on that should be coming down the pipeline as well. And essentially sort of getting all of that ready to go.
Okay. For armor sets, are we going to see the same kind of variations there, like Sheehan, Splendorian, Morothi, and so on?
Yes, you will. Now, again, qualified, maybe not day one. We're working on it. But
okay. Got it. All right, next we have created and implemented the majority of assets and in-engine reference spaces for 2 separate underground biomes. Okay, so yeah, I'm not exactly sure what that means. Maybe just like the size of spaces or root. I don't know. What does that mean?
So what it means, to be more a little bit more specific, is we have 2 full dungeon aesthetics. So dungeons aren't necessarily all going to be caves and ruins. In our case, the 2 that we're referring to are a crypt system, which I believe we've shown a lot of. And something that we've only just started showing off very recently, but you might not know as part of it, is our mine sort of biome, I guess, as the post describes it. So the idea is that these are 2 majorly underground sort of areas that you as a player will be able to explore. First 2 of a very large many eventually, but it's important to get these ones working just to make sure that our systems are working the way we need them to.
Okay. Yeah, that was going to be my next question. What 2 biomes are they? So awesome. Are there many mines on Ijar? Like, I don't know. I hadn't heard of anything about it that made me think like there would be like mining there. I mean, I guess
There
there
is
is like a big mountain there. Like,
So
yeah.
there is one mine at least. I'm not a lore expert, admittedly, so I will let the lore experts crucify me when they hear this. But at least one that we know of, which is the one that we designed. I could try to pronounce its name, but I will probably butcher it. Everyone does, even on the team. It's quite hilarious.
All right, make me laugh. Let's go.
It is the Charpepise mine.
Charpepise.
Uh,
Right.
yeah, it's yeah. When you see it spelled out, you'll understand why it's like what? All right. But I love my writers. They come up with real interesting things. But I think we were like, hey, can we focus on pronounceable, please?
I know what you mean. The first video I made, covering the Wayward Realms lore and stuff. Yeah, I was calling it Sid, and I remember the next day on Discord, it was like, hey, I forget who it was. One of the developers was like, hey, that was a great video, but we want to leave some of the pronunciations and stuff ambiguous, or maybe like leave it up to people. But I have to tell you, it's pronounced she, not Sid.
I
Okay,
had.
well.
I'm gonna say this. I'm in your camp where I saw it and I thought it was also pronounced Sid, and then was very confused when I heard someone say it out loud for the first time, and it was she. But I'm
Yeah, especially whenever you look at like the weapons post, I could just imagine so many people are thinking they're Sidhan swords instead of Sheehan. Sidhan,
right,
the way it's spelled. Yeah,
right.
I'm sure that's what I would be thinking if I didn't know, or if I hadn't already been told how to pronounce it. But all right, all right. Anyways, moving on to the next one here. You began creating buildings for the largest city on Ijar. So which city is that exactly? And you mean like, are these handcrafted buildings that we're talking about for this city? Or yeah.
So those familiar with the lore will recognize the name Belfer Parva, which is the largest city on Ijar. So that is what we are referring to. As for your second question, the assets themselves are going to be handcrafted, but they will be they will be placed by the procedural systems. So it is a marriage of the two, where the buildings themselves, I think, I want to say for an early pass, they'll probably be sort of like pre-constructed buildings. But the goal is to eventually make it so that way the system can put together buildings itself. I don't know how far along we'll be on that, but we'll see.
Okay, so you've handcrafted like half a dozen buildings or however many it is, and then the ProcGen system's just going to decide how to situate those to build the city.
Yeah, very similar to what I was saying earlier with the room sampling. It's just that on a bigger scale, essentially.
Okay, all right. Quick question just popped in my head whenever you said that. So the the ProcGen system's eventually going to be able to build all these things itself. You were talking about, but for this first pass, like it's handcrafted or whatever. Whenever we get to early access, you're going to have ProcGen build the whole island of Ijar, right? For early access, like how likely is it that that it will be rebuilt as early access goes? Maybe in a different way.
Well, I will say the island itself shouldn't change too much. The actual like visuals of it will like the layout and the like the mountains always going to be
Topology and
yeah,
stuff.
the topology that should stay the same roughly. Systematically, I would say probably a 50-50 chance depending on how things go. I know as an early pass, we do have essentially the entire island of Ijar sort of like built. but it's not necessarily built using the same systems that we want to build the rest of the archipelago with. So there is a chance that we'll replace it, but I don't want to guarantee that it'll happen.
Well, I was just curious because to me it would only make sense as like the systems advance and you'll get better at everything that you're doing as development continues. That maybe you'd be like, okay, well maybe now we go ahead and we have ProcGen created again just so that it has all these enhanced features that we've come up with further down the line. And it would make sense for it to maybe not change the topology and stuff, but maybe like the way that buildings are organized in a city, or maybe like the construction of a dungeon or something.
I would say things like that are more likely. I think we haven't discussed it too heavily, but I would personally like to avoid anything that's too disruptive to players. Like if you've gotten used to how things are, suddenly shifting that may cause headaches, but I won't rule it out if, like you said, the system comes along in a way that does bring major improvements to the way that things are. I'd see that would probably be a good trade-off, but it's one of those things where you can't really say until you know.
Okay, so possible, but we'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah.
Got it.
I would say it's far more likely that things will get regenerated between early access and the full launch, because being honest, there's probably going to be a lot of things that end up on iJar that don't necessarily belong on iJar, just for the sake of testing and making sure that they work the way that they should. So yeah. I would say there is a heavy chance that that'll happen when the full launch happens. I just not sure too much about beforehand. Things might get added, but I don't know about like changed around too much. We'll see.
Okay. All right. Good to know. Thank you. Next we have upgraded and improved forest, grassland, lake, and river biomes. All right. So what improvements did you make, or how are they looking now? What do you think of them?
In a word, gorgeous.
That's the word I wanted to hear.
Yeah, the game is looking absolutely incredible visually already. I will say a large part of that is just the talent of our team. I know we talked a bit about the 5.5 enhancements to visuals as well, but the marriage of the two has created some absolutely stunning visuals, some of which we're already starting to share out with you guys. But I have never been more excited to walk around a game world.
Really? So do you sometimes just like maybe you're off the clock or just on your own leisure time and you just fire it up and just go in there and kind of walk around and check it out? Or...
What is off the clock?
Yeah, not a thing for you guys, huh? That's good. That's encouraging for everybody to hear. Whoops, hit my mic there. Sorry about that.
Oh, you're good. But no, yeah, it's one of those things where sometimes I'll just go through the screenshots, or I'll boot up the map, and it's gorgeous.
All right, well, tell Victoria to get us some more of those screenshots in the community releases. I want to see them too. I wanted to also ask, what's OLG's philosophy for infusing those biomes with like sound and music? Because you talk about how beautiful they are. Are y'all taking more of an approach like keeping it all natural, like animals and rain and flowing water, or do you plan on incorporating music to help convey whatever feeling you're going for in a particular biome or area?
It'll be a bit of both, because I know that we are hard at work. I mean, making constant progress on getting more and more sounds into the game, things that would make sense, like you're talking about, like a waterfall or rustling of leaves, that kind of thing. The things that if they're done right, you don't notice because they're just natural. But at the same time, Eric has been doing some incredible work on the score. And as we briefly touched on earlier with the systemic updates, the system should be good enough to kind of understand what's happening, anything from a fight to a tranquil walk in the forest, and pick the right piece for that moment.
Awesome. Yeah, Eric's stuff is really great. Like I sometimes just pop over to his channel, and just put it on for like mood music. You know how they have like the hi-fi music channels for like studying too or something like that. Like I'll sometimes just pop over there for that because the stuff he's got on his channel there, it's great.
We do it too.
I have no doubt. It's not at all hard to believe. All right, next we have built out the majority of human character physical customization systems. So can you share like what these customizations are that you built out? What will be available to players? I'm assuming this is like character creation stuff or...
Yeah, so it's hard to say what exactly will be available at early access launch, but I know that the systems that we're working on should give players the full range of customization. So we're talking from height, builds, like even potentially some disfigurements, but I don't want to promise anything on that front. But it's things like what you come to expect from a fully stacked sort of character creator is what we are working on. Again, that's one of those things where what exactly is available day one is hard to say, but they are coming along incredibly nicely.
All right, so I mean, so standard stuff like tattoos, body piercings, maybe not day one early access, but that's in the works, that kind of stuff.
Absolutely works.
Different colored hair and stuff.
Oh yeah, we've been talking a lot about hair, going back to what we were saying with like those 80s sort of aesthetics with the big hair and the so it's in the works.
All right. Are there any plans to have in game, like after you create your character, have in game the ability to change those things in game, like a barber to cut your hair or style your hair, maybe a tattoo artist to add tattoos? I was thinking, like something that would be really cool, like having like maybe like an inquisitor character who gets like a new tattoo for each mage that he slays, or like something like that. Like, I don't know. Have y'all talked about? Obviously not at the beginning of early access. I don't expect it then, but is that something that might be in the works for final release? Because I think that would be pretty great.
Well, you've saved me the trouble of having to say it about the early access, but yes, it's in the plans.
Okay, I figured it was. I just wanted to hear somebody say it. Okay. All right, let's see here. Next up, we have began connecting and rigging facial animation systems. So what is that? Just like, I don't know, so that somebody grimaces in combat when they're supposed to, or stuff like that, or...
Yeah, pretty much. That's basically it. We are very much trying to avoid that sort of wooden one-note expression in our dialogue and just in general. It's one of those things, especially when you don't have voiced, dialogue. You have to find ways to really kind of convey emotion or tone, and sometimes the face is a good vehicle for that kind of thing.
So, like, if you're talking to someone and they respond with a joke or something like that, like maybe they'll, like, even if you're not hearing the joke, you're reading it, like they'll still smile appropriately.
That would be the goal, yeah.
All right. Well, it's a good goal to have. Good goal.
Yeah.
Next, we have fully modeled, rigged, and animated new flying enemy type and a new giant enemy type. Yeah, so can you maybe share what those are? I'm going to guess one of them's Gollum, because I remember from a community post, or maybe it was a short. It was a short. Seeing somebody looked like they were doing this for Gollum. But yeah, can you share what those are? And can you just kind of like maybe talk a little bit about what goes into that? Because we saw the short with somebody who was kind of like mimicking the actions that I guess y'all wanted them to do, but I don't know how you would do that with like a flying enemy,
right?
Because you can't fly. So, anyways,
yeah. So you are correct. The golem is one of them. So that would be the giant enemy type. As far as the flying enemy, we are hard at work on getting our scrags working.
Scrags.
Uh,
All right.
so we should actually sneak peek, be getting a look at that somewhat soon. So keep an eye out. I think Victoria has something planned for you guys on that front. As for the process, that itself is a topic worthy of a whole
It's
interview.
okay. If it's too much, it's too much. I was gonna say it definitely looked involved in that short that y'all put out. Like, I don't know, y'all like putting like electrodes that um record the body movements or something, and then, or is it more like with a camera? Maybe that's easier. I don't know.
Admittedly, that is one of those the aspects that I myself am not super knowledgeable on. So I'd rather not.
Okay.
I'd rather let people who know a bit more do better justice to that. But I will say one of my favorite things is watching these people work, because I'm just as fascinated and impressed watching them take essentially. So what I can say is, to my knowledge, those were just references. They didn't necessarily import that movement directly into the tools directly. They simply just used it for reference and did it the hard way, at least as far as I'm aware. So it's impressive what they do.
It looked really interesting. That's why I wanted to ask about it. I thought you might be able to give us a little bit more or something, but no, that's fine. I mean, sometimes mystery is better than having it revealed. I would say if they didn't actually record it and they were just like working off of like, okay, I'm going to animate this to look like that without like any actual measurements being taken, that's kind of even more impressive, I think. Yeah.
I mean, like I said, I'll let the people who know it better speak on that, and I'm sure they'd be happy to in some forum. But it's one of those things where I'm just as impressed.
Awesome. Okay, and let's see. Last here for the art section, we have created several custom outfits and pieces of clothing. Pretty straight up, but I wanted to ask, as far as outfits and clothing go, are those going to be wearable under armor, over armor? Is it going to be in lieu of armor, or probably some combination, I would imagine?
So the goal is that it will end up with, you could wear clothing under armor, as you likely would in real life. But as with many other things, that is going to depend largely on the resources and time it takes to make it a reality. An early version will likely force you to wear one or the other, but that is the goal down the line.
Okay. Can you explain for us why somebody would want to wear clothes instead of armor?
I mean, it's your tip, like other than the stereotypical RPG mechanics of clothing makes less noise. I think it will depend on sort of what you're going for, where assuming there's going to be an asterisk here. Assuming we are able to get our systems as dynamic as we want them and with the sort of nuance that we would like, it could matter what you're wearing when you talk to somebody. Where if you're trying to go into peace talks and you're wearing full plate armor, someone might doubt your intentions a little bit. And so if you go in and you're not wearing, like if you're just wearing like a peasant's tunic, it's not really going to help your intimidation all that much. But these are things that could theoretically be impacted if, again, we got the systems where we want them to be. So there's definitely use cases. It's just a matter, like I said, of time and resources.
Okay. So there probably won't be, aside from making less noise, anything like at the start of early access, but maybe further down the line, once you get those other things, if you're able to build and implement them, we might see that.
Yeah, I would say like it would be a nice to have, but there are other things that are going to probably take priority over that kind of thing. But so we'll see.
Okay, all right. I think this next one here is the writing. That's the last section, I do believe. And most of this writing is just about the quest systems. I'm just going to kind of read them off, and then I have a few questions afterwards, just because they're all kind of related here. So you continue to work on the quest system, finished narratives for faction quest lines, began transferring faction quest line narratives to the quest system format, partitioning them out into separate quests, completed approximately 20 side quests. So yeah, I just wanted to confirm we're looking at 5 factions in early access, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and so if you finished all of the you finished all the narratives for those 5 factions, but that's just like the narrative, like the story. Like you haven't necessarily built out the quests or anything like that. You just know what the overarching stories are going to be.
Actually, I would say it's probably a bit of both. Because I know that my writing team has been hard at work and they're doing some incredible work to the point where they're actually, I want to say my writing team is one of the few that are ahead of schedule in a lot of ways. And now it's just kind of up to the in-engine teams to kind of make it all happen.
Okay, and so the faction quest lines are supposed to be kind of like the primary stories in the Wayward Realms. Maybe along with world events and how all that ends up interconnected. Okay, so I wanted to ask, with them all kind of, at least the narratives being completed, how many are have y'all gotten to play through any of those? The narrative's complete, and you do have some quests for some of them. Have y'all played through, whatever is there, like, that the half of the quest line that's done for a faction or whatever it is? Have you like actually played through each quest going along?
In short, not yet. So the backend work for the actual quest systems, like the actual like systemic portion of it, has taken a bit longer than expected. Like the framework is there, but actually getting everything in and implementing it properly and working out all the bugs and the kinks, that's still something that we're hard at work on. We believe, getting very close to being able to do that, but we're not quite there yet.
Okay, can you give us an idea of like how long these quest lines are? Like if I ran into one of these factions and like the only thing I did was just each step in that or each quest in that quest line, like how long it might take somebody to complete that?
Honestly, it's hard to
No
say.
idea. Yeah.
It's one of those things, especially because of the way that our systems are designed. You could end a quest instantly, or you could drag it out for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours. So getting sort of a good middle ground there is really hard to say. But yeah.
You said enough there, because that sets my mind to reeling. I can finish it instantly, or I can drag it out for hours and hours. So am I just like killing the person who gave me the quest to finish it instantly?
Basically, yeah.
Don't tell me. I want to find out.
All right.
But you got me. You got my head spinning there with possibilities. I'm looking forward to finding out. So of the 20 side quests are you familiar with those 20 side quests? Could you maybe like share one of them with us? Or if you can't, maybe like an example that's close to what one of them is? Just how it's working?
Yeah, I do want to keep as much content sort of close to the chest as possible.
All right.
So I may not be able to give you a specific quest. But I am more than happy to do kind of dance around the subject of specifics if you have a more general question.
Okay. All right. So are these side quests? Are they basically just what you explained before with the goblins and the farmer?
So
So we're not getting to a specific quest, but that's basically the setup. What we talked about before. That's how
yeah,
it's going to work.
like you mentioned, probably not goblins because goblins playable race. They're not the mindless monsters that they are in a lot of other fantasy. I pulled on them because I think I was watching an anime recently where they were an anime and it's just top of the mind.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
but to be more specific, you would get something more like since we have like Calibans are probably causing problems or what have you. So that would be probably an example of a simpler quest. We have talked about wanting to make sure that our core game loop is really sort of represented, and that core game loop at its base should simply be start from a place of safety, go on an adventure, return to a place of safety, and witness the results of that adventure. Rinse and repeat.
Okay. All right. Another question. Hopefully, this is general enough. Are any of those 20 side quests like mage or magic related for spellcasters? Like go out into the world and find this word of power, find it, or do this ritual here. Any of those, because it's kind of what I always try to learn something new about what's going on with magic, because that's kind of what I'm most interested in and how you are doing that.
Yeah, I hear you. So magic is one of those ones that's a little bit more complicated, especially with the way that we want to do it. So I would say there's probably some quests written that are in that vein. Whether or not they're there day one, that I probably can't say.
Okay. Another thing. Sorry for putting you on the spot here. Victor didn't have an answer for this last time. He's like, I don't know. But y'all reworked. There, go hit the microphone again. Y'all reworked the magic system like towards the end of last year. And he answered most of my questions, but he couldn't tell me if a focus was going to be required or not. He's like, I don't know. I can't remember. Do you know the answer to that? Have y'all figured that out in the last few months? Like if you're going to require a focus to be able to cast or not?
You are putting me on the spot. So
You could just say I don't know or I don't want to tell you. It's fine if that's the answer.
I
But
don't know, and I
had to
don't want
ask.
no. So no, I want to say I don't know if it's required. That is more of like a lore question, which is why I'm surprised Victor didn't have an answer for you. I would actually have to double check what our designs say, which if you're willing to give me like half a second, I could probably do that for you.
Yeah, sure. If you're willing to do that, then that would be great. For everybody watching, I'm just gonna edit this part out, so we'll be back in like 2 seconds.
Yeah.
All right, so I think Kyle here has finally found what we were looking for the information about the focus for casters. So what do you have for us, Kyle?
I'll say that it doesn't look like it's required, at least the way that it's currently designed. So you should not necessarily need a focus in order to be a spellcaster.
Okay. Does that mean that there will be focuses available that maybe enhance things?
I think that is the plan, but these are very detailed documents, and I don't want to have to make you wait another.
That's fine. Good enough. Good enough. It's more than Victor was able to give me. So good job. You're better than Victor.
I'm gonna lord that over him for so long.
All right. So yeah, we're through all the stuff from the update, and yeah, I feel like I definitely learned a lot here. Did want to ask you just one final wrap up question here. What do you hope to be able to show us or present to us? Like what do you hope you will be available for a Q3 update?
Yeah, speaking very optimistically, and obviously the reality will be governed by a number of different things. I would love to be able to show you guys a first look at the actual game itself. I'm talking in engine, running through, getting into fun little interactions. And I would like to be able to showcase more of that gorgeous art I was talking about, and more variety in what we have to offer. If things go according to plan, our production should speed up quite nicely over the next couple of months, and it should really allow us to have some really interesting stuff that I'm so excited to see, let alone share. So,
all right. Well, that sounds amazing. I hope that that everything goes according to plan then, and here in another 3 to 4 months, whenever you are showing off the Q3 update, maybe we get to see some gameplay in some of those awesome biomes. Definitely be looking forward to that. So hopefully that can come to fruition.
yeah, absolutely.
All right. Well, thanks, Kyle. Appreciate your time. I know that you are a very busy man. Working hard to get all of us everything that we want here out of the Wayward Realms. So do appreciate your time. Is there anything else that you would like to share or say before we go? Anything you want to plug, or just whatever it is you want to talk about?
I mean, I'll just say that I appreciate you taking the time to kind of speak with me as well. And as far as plugging, we talked about it earlier. We have the merch store, which is, like I said, we're looking to launch a new line of designs very soon. I know that the Kickstarter is still, while the main campaign is over, it is still open to late backers if you want to reserve your spot on the early access. I think the plan is to cut that off right before we launch the early access. So you still have time to get your spot in there. Anything else, I would say we do have the link tree that we'll make sure that you have, and you can link it for your viewers. Just follow us on all social medias. Honestly, just being a member of the community is a bigger help than we can actually say. So I appreciate each and every one of you.
All right, yeah, and I will provide links to the Kickstarter, which you can still back, to the merch store, to Linktree, and to the Discord, so you can join the Discord if you haven't already. And they do have a section in the Discord where you can actually suggest topics, discuss topics for possible review on the Wayward Radio podcast. So just to let everybody know that maybe you can get your idea featured there, possibly. At the very least, you can get it in their brains. So be sure to join the Discord if you haven't already. All right. Yeah, this has been great. Definitely look forward to the next one. Hopefully we'll be able to do in just a few months. And thanks for your time, Kyle.
Thank you as well.
This has been Chris with Lorespire and Kyle with Once Lost Games. Be well, our friends.